Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching or listening to this. I'm the Shredder. The opinions I'm about to express are my own, and I want to quickly cover this breaking and developing story in the world of professional wrestling for NerdTube before, obviously, tonight when the channel becomes dedicated to the annual Golden Glasses Award. And it's with regard to Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho has been trending recently on Twitter, which is not really much of a surprise given the drunken ass he made of himself at 4 o'clock in the morning on Christmas, where he tried claiming that he was present for the AEW Brawl Out incident, which he wasn't. The AEW doesn't have a talent conduct handbook, which they do, and he was trying to get in a beef with CM Punk and Ace Steel's lawyer, Stephen P. New, over the fact that Stephen P. New revealed that everybody involved in Brawl Out signed a lifetime non-disclosure agreement with the exception of Ace Steel's wife, Lucy Guy. But this is much worse, and there's been some serious allegations made about Jericho, which could be brought up tonight at the AEW Media Scrum. So Nick Hausman of House of Wrestling, during a podcast, he mentioned that there are some serious allegations against Chris Jericho that might come out at some point, and he compared those allegations to those of Harvey Weinstein, in that Weinstein was a reputable producer and was responsible for multiple award-winning movies, but is now in jail for what came out over him. Although, in Weinstein's case, what he was doing with his casting couch, that was one of the dirtiest open secrets in Hollywood, and it was a case of that nobody was prepared to risk their livelihoods until multiple victims of his actually came forward during the Me Too movement. But, with regard to Jericho, the allegation that is making the rounds, and people have come to the conclusion of, is that Chris Jericho reportedly sexually harassed the female wrestler Kylie Rae. Kylie Rae was signed to AEW at the very, very start of the promotion, and it was believed that she was set to become one of the main faces of the women's division. But she made a very sudden departure from the company on what were at the time thought to be mental health grounds, although those were never actually verified. So when Speaking Out happened in 2020, the original accuser of David Starr, who got the entire ball rolling on male wrestlers being outed as predators and abusers, she posted the following: "Sometimes I stop to wonder how many young women out there are wondering if it's safe to post about Chris Jericho yet." There is another post that has cropped up, although it has the name blurred out of whoever actually posted it, alleging that Kylie Rae was asked to go to Chris Jericho's room with the understanding that there would be other people there. However, she wound up there alone with him, he made a pass at her, and she freaked out, which is why she phoned Tony Khan and asked for her release from AEW. Something that at the time Tony Khan never went into too much detail about when he was asked about Kylie Rae's sudden and abrupt departure from the company. It's also worth noting that when AEW partnered with TNA, Kylie Rae was working there and then immediately announced she'd quit the company, she'd left TNA. So what's added fuel to this fire, though, is that Kylie Rae herself replied to these allegations on Twitter with a heart emoji, which suggests that they are in fact true. Comments have also been made in response to Chris Jericho posting about how he's never signed an NDA over Brawl Out, that while Jericho may indeed not have one, he's got no problem getting other people to sign NDAs with regard to his personal conduct. Now, there's obviously people out there who are saying, fuck Nick Hausman for holding on to this over a Twitter spat. But here's the thing that needs to be remembered. Nick Hausman would need evidence before he outright stated something like, Kylie Rae quit AEW over being sexually harassed by Chris Jericho. During Speaking Out, we saw Joey Ryan, who had no less than 17 women come forward with allegations of sexual harassment, assault, and misconduct against them, and he got litigious with quite a few of them, as well as the former Ring of Honor wrestler Pelly Promo. So Jericho is a guy who paid $40,000 to try and keep Donald Trump in the White House. You know, it's safe to say he probably has the funds to tie up somebody like Nick Hausman in court for the rest of his life. Wouldn't even need to get to a courtroom to the point where, you know, he would just be able to bankrupt Nick Hausman out of, pure attrition. And not only Nick Hausman, but potentially even Kylie Rae, if indeed she signed an NDA and is suspected to have breached it. Now, Hausman is safe to say something along the lines of what he did on the podcast, which is that there are allegations about Chris Jericho that may come out, But if he outright said what those allegations were, and he couldn't back them up, or he couldn't have someone else who was involved actually corroborate them, then again, Jericho could take him for every single penny. And we don't know for certain that this was even the allegation that Nick Hausman was referring to. He's not said what it was. It could be something else entirely for all we know. So, like I said, I'll be curious tonight. The AEW media scrum following the World's End pay-per-view, which Jericho is booked on. If Jericho himself makes an appearance, I'll be curious if any journalists question him, or indeed if they question Tony Khan about it. Now, Tony Khan, I would definitely love to see questioned about this, because he, ironically enough, was all over Twitter with regard to the allegations about Vince McMahon when it came out that McMahon had been using WWE corporate money to pay women, including some who'd wrestled for the company, to sign NDAs over his sexual relations with them. But, of course, Tony Khan brought Ric Flair into AEW, a guy whose sexual harassment and assault of a flight attendant was spotlighted by Dark Side of the Ring when they covered it for the infamous Plane Ride from Hell episode. You know, which, again, the only reason that never made it to court was because that flight attendant, as well as one other, accepted out-of-court settlements from WWE. So, yeah, stay tuned tonight to the AEW media scrum, and let's see if anybody actually asks any questions about these allegations. I will say what has been encouraging, though, is the response towards Kylie Rae, which has been nothing but love and support for her, and just hoping that she's okay and wishing her well. And that's a sentiment I think everybody here at NerdTube would also agree with. I'm the Shredder, and that's my opinion.